Well-known German philosopher Karl Marx emphasized the division between the working class and the capitalist. In Marx's Communist Manifesto, he states, "In proportion, therefore, as the repulsiveness of the work increases, the wage decreases." According to Marx, the proletariat, or the working class, have few personal belongings other than their ability to work for capitalists. The capitalists consume what the proletariat produces. The proletariats work under harsh conditions, which produces a negative environment for them, individually as well as the way the capitalist system functions. Marx focuses on the social conflict theory and the negative aspects that the capitalist system produces. Marx's views can be applied to an ongoing problem in Turkey. As the Syrian civil war continues, 3.6 million Syrians seek refuge in Turkey, only to be exploited in low-paying jobs. Most of these Syrians only have two options, either to live in an unstable, violent country or work under unfair conditions. They are trapped by the division that the capitalist system creates. As Marx said, these jobs are repulsive and labor-intensive in areas such as construction, agriculture, and factory work. Syrian refugees have to endure harsh working conditions and unfair treatment in their work environments. They do not have access to any employment rights. They are required to work long hours with little time off. If they are paid at all, they earn less than half of their Turkish counterparts while doing much more labor. Some workers receive as little as $2 to $4 a day, providing their labor until the late evening hours. Many Syrian refugees, especially women and children, experience extreme abuse and violence under their employers. Many report feeling unsafe in their work environments. These low-paying jobs create a barrier for the refugees to integrate into real Turkish society. On DJM News, colleague of Dr. Jim Meeker highlights the exploitation currently taking place in Turkey.
Today we will examine the current situation in Turkey where millions of Syrian refugees have been exploited. First we have Vice President of Turkey Fuat Aktay to talk to us about the current situation of Syrian refugees in Turkey. Fuat, can you tell us about your policy towards Syrian refugees in Turkey?
Yes, Turkey established an open-door policy in 2011 towards Syrians because of the effects of the civil war on Syrian civilians. Since 2011, we have accepted over 3.6 million refugees, all who have public services and free healthcare and transportation.
Recent news sources have been saying that the Turkish government is now deporting Syrians because of the increase in population and lack of jobs. Is this true?
No, this is not true. We did not think that this many Syrians would seek refugees in Turkey. However, we are not deporting Syrian refugees.
While Syrians seek refuge from their war-driven country in Turkey, it has come to the public's attention that Syrians are being exploited in Turkey. What do you have to say about this?
We have limited means to help Syrian refugees other than give them resources such as transportation and healthcare and allow them to be in our country. The Syrians can find work here in a variety of jobs from industry and agriculture. The only restriction is that they must stay in the province where they were documented.
Do you have certain restrictions within the workforce to keep these workers safe?
Yes, of course we do.
Can you elaborate?
We have the labor contractors register, and no child can work under 14.
Okay, thank you for your time and for coming to speak to us today, Fuat.
Thank you.
15 of the 227 labor contractors are registered under the Turkish government. The ones who aren't registered often exploit their workers and use child labor. We've now seen the Turkish government's view on what it's like to have Syrian refugees cross over into their country. This next interview will show us a different side of the story. Here with me today is Dima, a Syrian refugee in Turkey who is currently working in agriculture as a hazelnut harvester. I'll be asking Dima some questions regarding her work and its atmosphere and the Nutella farms. Dima, can you please explain what a normal day on the farm would be like?
Sure. I work from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. I work as a collector, which means I'm in charge of bagging the hazelnuts. I have to collect the nuts from steep mountainsides, which is very difficult. Other people are in charge of hauling the bags down the hills to the trucks. The bags can weigh about 110 pounds each.
Can I ask you how much you make?
At first I was promised 80 to 100 lira a day, and I'm now only making 50 lira.
For those of you that don't know, 50 lira is $8.50 US. I'm assuming you know where the hazelnuts are going after they are picked?
Yes, Nutella and Nestle.
Knowing this and having these poor working conditions, why do you choose to stay in Turkey?
I have to provide food and shelter for my child. I can't risk going back to my war-torn country, which is largely occupied by ISIS and Assad. I work to feed my child. It's too expensive to risk traveling to other Western countries and being denied entry.
I'm so sorry that you have to go through that. Does your child work?
Yes, he is only 11, but he must work. Turkish law requires labor contractors to register, but the hazelnut industry doesn't. I couldn't pay for clothes, so I took out a loan to have money, but I can't pay it back, so he must work. He loads the hazelnut bags onto the truck, which are very heavy. He says his back is hurting, yet I can't do anything about it.
I'm sorry to hear that, Dima. Thank you for coming to talk to us today. On behalf of our newscast, we want to give you and your child $5,000 to pay off your loan and afford your payment for housing.
Thank you so much.
This is a hazelnut farm near the city of Giresun in northeastern Turkey. Almost 3/4 of the world's hazelnuts come from the Turkish Black Sea coast. This farm follows the UTZ standard for sustainable farming, which brings big benefits for the farmer and the environment. The hazelnut orchards are regularly rejuvenated by planting new trees to make sure they're always at their most productive. The plants are distributed evenly, leaving space between the trees. Together with pruning and weed control on the ground, this allows better air circulation. This in turn means less risk of parasites and fungi and a lower temperature, and therefore higher yield per tree. Where the farm borders a river, farmers make sure they don't use any crop protection products too close to the riverbanks. This buffer zone protects the water. Here you can see the buffer zone, as it's made up of different trees. As you can see here, the buffer zone can also be made up of hazelnut trees, as long as the trees in this area don't get treated with crop protection products. A similar buffer is in place to protect nearby forest areas, helping to protect the delicate forest ecosystem from accidental contamination and promoting biodiversity. These practices lead to better productivity on the farm, while ensuring the environment is protected. In comparison, in traditional farming techniques, the hazelnut trees are left to grow like a forest, without any maintenance. Farmers can increase their yields by as much as 300% when they use these best practices.
Now we have Giovanni Ferraro, the CEO of Nutella, to talk about the production and process of obtaining hazelnuts.
Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for your time. Do you know the hazelnut industry in Turkey is exploiting Syrian refugees?
Well, they're all being paid healthy wages competitive to those of Turkish citizens.
We have first-hand accounts from Syrian refugees that counter your claims. DJM News interviewed a Syrian refugee who discussed her brutal work conditions, unthinkable wages, and discrimination by Turkey and its employers.
I can assure you, that my workers get paid enough for shelter and food.
So what farms in Turkey do you buy hazelnuts from?
I'm sorry, I have a meeting I have to catch. I'm gonna have to leave. Thank you for having me.
In closing, most top business executives in Western societies don't know about the working conditions of these countries like Turkey, nor do many of them care. Most corporations, such as Nutella, emphasize the importance of production of their products more than of the working conditions and quality of life that it has on its workers. This is an ongoing problem that does not have a single solution. Syrian refugees continue to be exploited while Western countries continue to turn their cheek the other way.